Good evening. This is episode 23 of the Life Live series. I'm titling this episode 23 Breathe. And I say that for a number of reasons, so I'll cover that throughout this episode. In 2 episodes ago, I had mentioned what I thought was the 5-3-5 rule, or breathing exercise, but it's actually the 5-5-5 breathing exercise. And that kind of coincided with what I had mentioned a couple weeks or a couple episodes before that in regards to finding something about yourself that you can appreciate and focus on that every day. And I hope that's something that you did as well as continue to do. But in that, in the follow-up episode, I briefly mentioned a breathing exercise that I do, and I said it was the 5-3-5 rule, and it was actually the 5-5-5 rule, or breathing exercise rule. And so, if you hadn't listened to it, that is where you will exhale everything that you can, and you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. And we typically try to do this at least 5 times. And so, and some people might call it the 5-5-5-5 rule, just because it's 5 in, 5 hold, 5 out, and do it 5 times. Some people do it 3 times. You can do it however long you want to, just kind of depending on, how you're feeling. And I had also mentioned that can actually help your body calm down, because it actually causes your diaphragm to rub against a nerve that kind of helps you relax. So that's also a reason why people say if you're getting angry or frustrated, just breathe. And even, some people say, well, count to 10. And so it's just something that it helps your body do overall, kind of calm down. So when I think about everything that I've talked about, one of the things that I did mention, which was, again, finding or focusing on something about you, whether it be a talent that you have, or a characteristic about yourself that you like, or something that you're good at, or whether it be your finger or your thumb or the tip of your finger or whatever it might be. The point is trying to find something about yourself that you may have not noticed before and learn to appreciate it, or something that you are aware of about yourself and being able to appreciate it even more. And so by doing that, it is getting you to, again, focus on you and internalize you and appreciate you. So when we think about what we're going through on a daily basis, and, as we reflect on how our day is going, how we're feeling, or you might not even pay attention to how you're feeling. Hopefully you learn to, but again, as we're going through all of our daily motions, we tend to forget to just appreciate the simple things. And that's an important thing. Not only, obviously, is focusing on yourself important, and paying attention to you and your feelings and how you internalize things and how you handle things that come at you. We also, in my opinion, need to think about what is going on around us on a daily basis, and if that impacts us in any way, or how we can make that impact us in some way. Because I think that we tend to constantly focus on either what we've got to do moment to moment, or hour to hour throughout the day, and the things that we dread, or just a standard routine that we're going through. And that's obviously not healthy on a daily basis, but it's also prevents us from recognizing things in our daily life that I think that we should learn to recognize and appreciate. And so I wanted to call this Breathe because I wanted, to hopefully help you focus on the things that you might not really recognize on a daily basis. So then, how do we get there? Well, I think breathing is part of it, not just in general, but, if you've ever seen, again, I refer to movies, but if you've ever seen a movie, where, let's say a kid's acting out or upset about something, the parents will always say, just calm down and breathe. Or, if you've ever visited a doctor or your parents, or your teacher, whatever the event might be, someone most likely at one point in their life has said, just calm down and breathe. So there are a couple reasons that this is helpful. First off, if you have to breathe and, you have to count to 10 before you speak or act out, it's part of it is because it's helping you center yourself. Okay, so I'm not focusing on that. My focus is on being aware of the wonderful and magnificent things around you. There are things in life that I think are important that a lot of people miss. Now, it's not one thing. I'm just saying that there are important things in life that people miss. And I think if you're more aware of your surroundings, you're more aware of yourself, you're more aware of your emotions and your feelings, then we can start to learn to be able to attach to those things and be able to really understand those things and start to appreciate these things. Because being able to recognize what's going on around you and appreciate it can take away from some of the turmoil and the pain that you go through on a daily basis. The other thing that it can help you do is cope. I had an episode on, coping, and that was one of the things that I meant to talk about was just being able to, really find something in your life or things in your life that are around you and to be able to appreciate them. And by doing that, they can become coping mechanisms. So for me, for example, one of the things that I really like is rain, mainly or partly because of where I grew up. We always had thunderstorms. We didn't have, standard rain that you just have on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on where you live, that lasts for an hour or two. Where I lived, we had, thunderstorms, and it just every time it rained, it was thunder and lightning, and it lasted for hours and hours, and it was just a downpour. And for me, that's just very relaxing. There's not one thing that I can attribute to it that makes me find it relaxing. Just for me, it does. There are a lot of, let's say, like nature soundtracks that people listen to, and a lot of those tracks on these CDs or MP3 files or whatever it is that you use. The point is, typically these CDs are made up of various nature sounds, mainly because a lot of people find those things calming. So oddly enough, rain really works well for me. And I think maybe part of it is because part of it feels like things are being washed away. So it's kind of a cleansing a cleansing, kind of a release and starting anew. The other thing is that rain, whether there's thunder or lightning, in itself can be noisy. And so that kind of helps block out some of the outside noise that I hear. And it just kind of calms me. So, throughout the day and as the weeks go on, I try to continue to do these episodes and find different things to talk about. And, I look at the things around me that help me, and I just want to kind of pass these things along. So, being able to appreciate certain things in your life that that, again, might happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, that you can start to appreciate, or at least recognize, that provides you with a enjoyable feeling or relaxing feeling is good. Because if we, if you don't find something like that in your life, what's going to happen is most likely, at least for me, is it becomes all this negativity that we go through on a daily basis or an hourly basis can seem so overwhelming. And if if you've been listening to me and you're trying to focus on yourself and you're trying to, sit down and appreciate certain things, yet your mind's just going 90 to nothing, that you can't think of a single thing to positively think about, or if you do, you just can't find yourself concentrating. Breathing will certainly help, hopefully. So that was kind of rhetoric, but anyway, finding these different things that we can utilize on a daily basis can really kind of help us be centered and start to focus on these things about ourselves that are very important. So being able to, breathe, find something that's calming and relaxing, and allow yourself to pick up what's going on around you. And I don't know if that sounds silly, or it might be something that you already do, and hopefully I'm just reinforcing that for you. But it can be very therapeutic, and it doesn't, I'm a visual person, and, if you are a visual person, having sight and sound on something that you can experience that helps you relax, I think is great. If not, at least let it be something visual or something that's audible. And having something like that, it at least allows you to have a go-to, somewhat of a safety blanket to go to, because, as you start to think about yourself and you start to think about what in life on a daily basis is important to you and how you want to continue to grow, there are things that we want to do in our lives that help make that easier. And at least for me, that helps. And so to kind of coincide with that, taking the time to recognize not only things around you that you can appreciate and maybe even turn to find a relaxing time on, it's also important to simply appreciate the things around you, because I think it will help you appreciate life more. Because if as all of these negative things come at us, whether it be in our own minds or whether it be an external source, it's easy to get in a dark place, and it's a lot harder to get out. And if we manage to climb out of that dark space, how easy is it for someone or something to push us back into it? And then it comes to a point to where, if you struggle to get out of this deep, dark hole, to easily get knocked back into it, what's the point of even trying to get out if you know that that's where you're going to be very shortly? So that, again, kind of goes back to focusing on you and looking inside. But for this episode, it's about trying to find things outside of you that you can internally appreciate. Because, again, if you're constantly being hit down and hit down and hit down, all we end up doing is walking around with our heads down and not looking up and not seeing the world around us, which makes everything just feel so much smaller. So, if we're able to look up and at least somewhat peripherally peripherally look at the world around us, while we might not take it in, at least it doesn't seem that small. But as we, get more depressed and more hurt, we tend to look down, we tend to walk with our head down, and you start to really compress the world around you. And the more that you reflect on yourself in life, you'll feel like the whole world is so tiny and there's no way out of it. And so by taking the time to look around and just appreciate, or at least just lifting your head up and looking around and staring at something for, let's say, 15 seconds, no matter how simplistic it is, that is 15 seconds out of your day and out of your mind that you are taking the time to focus on. And so by doing this over and over, hopefully throughout your day, or as you learned to kind of concentrate on doing this, then I think it is going to help you recognize the bigger world around you. And it will make it easier to pull yourself out of a deep and dark hole. And it'll make it harder for you to go in it, because you'll be more aware of the great things around you. And then the world won't seem so small. And it can make it easier to let your emotions go, to let things kind of roll off of you, instead of constantly pounding you into a hole and in a dark place to where you think there's no way out. And so whether it be, again, I kind of say this all metaphorically, but, whether it be physically looking at the world around you, or closing your eyes and taking 15 seconds to just recognize the sounds around you. And if you happen to be in your room or in your car or in a place that's quiet, listen to yourself breathe. That alone, you might find it funny, because you might realize that the way you breathe is interesting. You might breathe in longer than you breathe out, or you might breathe out longer than you breathe in, and you might breathe in through your mouth and out your nose, or in through your nose and out your mouth. These are things that you just might not have been aware of. And just using this as an example to further help find a way to have yourself concentrate and block out sight and sound around you of these negative things that are coming at you. If you do sit there to listen to yourself breathe, and you do realize for the first time ever that you do breathe in through your mouth or out your nose, or vice versa, or you breathe in longer than you breathe out and vice versa, you might challenge yourself to then breathe in through your nose and out your mouth when you typically breathe in through your mouth and out your nose. Or, you find that you breathe in longer than you breathe out, then you might try to, the point is you end up, hopefully you might end up challenging yourself based upon a particular aspect about your daily life, something that you do every single moment of every single day because you have to live, breathing, that there are characteristics about it. And by something that simple, it's allowing yourself to really focus on you. Because, again, that is a big, that's a big point. And then it can become, hopefully, this will become just a building block of what you continue to do and experiment and recognize on a daily basis. Because I don't know, if you breathe in longer than you breathe out, then that might start a thought process like, well, where's the rest of the air going? Or do I end up expelling the rest of that air on my second exhale? But where, now it's compounded. In any case, the point being is that I'm hoping that it's going to make you recognize something in your life that you didn't notice before. And hopefully it becomes something that you build on, and that it becomes something that helps you appreciate the world around you. And by that, you learn to recognize where your place is in your life on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean finding what your purpose is. But if if let's say that you decide to sit outside and you decide to close your eyes and you decide to listen to all the sounds around, you might, I'm hoping, appreciate what you hear, because first off, the amount of sound that is around us at any given moment is pretty impressive. And then, it becomes, if we're using the same scenario of sitting outside and there's a lot of sound, because there typically are a lot of sounds, then, hopefully we start to try to concentrate on focusing on a particular sound and then moving from sound to sound to sound. And by doing that, what I'm hoping is that you will start to recognize where you are in life. And then I hope that it provides you with an additional level of appreciation. Why is any of this important? Well, of course, other than finding yourself internally and hopefully finding a mechanism that might help you cope or help you quiet all of the noise around you, all the negative noise around you, I'm hoping that it will help you appreciate the world and the life around you. Because if you're somebody who has attempted suicide or is in a dark place and are strongly considering it, I'm hoping that this is something that would help. Now, of course, I know it doesn't take away the pain that you're going through or the anger that you're going through or the resentment that you're going through. But I'm hoping that it's going to make you be aware of how wonderful the things are around you. And I don't mean what you have physically, whether, what car you drive, what house you live in, what neighborhood you live in, whatever it might be. That's not it. It's all about appreciating the life that you're in. Because first off, from my perspective, this is the only one you get. And no one person can experience all of life in their lifetime. But I think, to me, life is made up of moments. And the more of these moments we have, as we think about ourselves and we think about the lives that we've lived, we tend to only have those moments stick out. Now, a lot of those moments, possibly for a lot of you, are dealt with or deal with ridicule, embarrassment, disappointment, all the negative things that you hear and experience on a daily basis. And so, by replacing and rebuilding these moments that you get to reflect on in your life, you can realize how rich your life has been. And so, of course, the starting point is not taking your own life and then building on that. Because as I've said almost in every episode, it pains me to think that anyone would be at a point in their life to where they don't want to live anymore. Now, I know I'm one person who can't experience everyone's life. I just know what I've been through and where I've come from. And I'm so thankful that none of my attempts were successful. And so I think about all the people who haven't been or weren't that fortunate. Like I said, my best friend and several other friends throughout my life have taken their own life. And it's painful to be it's painful to be the person who wasn't successful, to lose against someone who was, and who is a deep friend. And so, of course you don't know who you're going to affect in the event that you decide to take your own life, because we're not typically in those moments thinking about it. We're just thinking, whatever the easiest way out is going to be, and we don't think about anybody else. And, there are still friends and family who are for a lifetime going to be affected by that. My friend took his life in 2007, and to this day, it hurts like it did the day that I got the phone call. And I don't want anyone to have to go through that on either end. On either end, because of the pain that you're going through can abate. And the pain that you could cause your friends and family, at least for me, takes a lot longer to go away. And so I think, again, being able to appreciate everything that's around you will hopefully give you a different perspective on what you see on a daily basis, and what you feel on a daily basis, and what you go through on a daily basis. I don't have the answers for everybody, but I'm hoping that I'm hoping first off that you're aware that you're not alone, and there are thousands of people who are going through the same thing that you are. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope that you're able to get there on your own. And I'm hoping that the words that I say can help you with that. And so let me go back to one thing. For some people, feeling like life will never get any better. One example stems from how you value yourself based upon the objects around you. What I mean by that is, again, the house you live in, the car you drive, the car your parents drive, the neighborhood you live in, the clothes you wear, the brands you wear, whatever. All of those can be negative external aspects. And so, as I was talking, saying, sit outside on a bench or somewhere and just listen to the sounds around you for 15 seconds. It doesn't. As I made that statement, I had a flash image in my mind picturing someone who lived in a home in an area that they weren't proud of. And if they went outside to sit down to listen to the sounds around them, they would just get more frustrated because of what they physically see and where they're physically at. And the reason that I even hesitated to bring this up is because the world and society around us makes everything feel like we have to own it or be a part of it, or we're not worthy. And I think a lot of people who are depressed and sad and down on themselves take a look around them and think, well, I live in this neighborhood and I'm never going to get out of it, or I'm never going to get out or away from these type of people or this particular environment. So why even bother trying to find something in life that I appreciate? A lot of this goes back to the point of me saying, first off, you don't know where life is going to lead you, because at the drop of a hat, it can change. And so preventing your life from taking that direction, it's sad to think about that you couldn't experience because you focused on what you think is important. And again, a lot of that being physical things that people own or have or around. And it's not. To some people, that is very important, and they like to project that. But I can strongly tell you from my experience, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you live or the car your parents drive or the car you drive. It doesn't. And if you think about it, why does it? Why would it? The only reason it does is because of what someone is saying about it. And you might think, well, it's not something that somebody's saying. It's something that I think about on a daily basis when I look at this car that I drive, or use a car as an example. Okay, but why do you have those thoughts? Why do you think the car that you drive is bad or disappointing? Not taking into consideration what people are saying, and not taking into consideration your internal thoughts as why you think it's bad. But think about it logically. Why is it bad? Now, if it's bad for the environment or people around you, sure. But overall, why? Why does it matter? Why would it matter if you're driving a Pinto versus a 7 Series BMW? Why does it matter? What does one do better than the other? And don't say, well, one's faster than the other, or one's more reliable than the other. Technically, those aren't really true. From a fast perspective, sure, yes, a BMW 7 Series is going to be faster than a Pinto, but where in the world, other than a very select few of countries and roads, can you actually drive what the car can perform? So, that doesn't matter. Now, it could come down to what your physical opinion is of the car, meaning you might not like the color or the shape. That's realistic. I can understand, but it's not detrimental. So, by taking the time to breathe, it's hopefully going to allow you, I'm really hoping, it will help you slow down. And it will make you take a moment to appreciate anything. The point is it'll help you in the long run to appreciate a lot of things around you. And it could be something that you own. But if we don't take the time to stop and think about why something is affecting us the way that it does, it's going to continuously affect us. If we wake up every day and we hate the car that we drive because of what the people say at school or work, or what I think about the car because speaking as for you, if you're thinking I deserve a better car, for what reason? Again, if it's a car that's causing you problems, leaking oil, and leaving you stranded, I completely understand that. But I'm talking about it from the aspect of it being a something physical and something that's projecting. Because in the end, people don't really care. People don't care what kind of car and what kind of house you have. They don't. Now, do you want people to admire you because of those things? Maybe. Are people going to be like, wow, this is a nice house or a pretty car? Okay, that's great. But in the end, what does that do for you? What does that do for your emotion? It might make you feel good in that moment or for a day or for a week that somebody else is admiring something that you have. But for what? it's important to realize that what is important, because it's nothing. Now again, and I've talked about this in other episodes, if you are doing something beneficial for yourself, if you set a goal and you reach it, and your reward is the car that you've always wanted, or that you've had an eye on, or what have you, whatever the object might be, I can understand that, because it's a feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment. I commend you on that. But we also have to think about the core purpose. I mean, being happy and successful about a goal and telling people about it and having them appreciate that, that's great. If you weigh 300 pounds and you've recently lost 10 pounds or 50 pounds, or if you're down to your the ideal weight that's healthy for you, then that is an accomplishment, and that is okay for other people to be proud of for you. But having a car or a house that people appreciate doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't. And what's going to end up happening is let's pretend it's drugs or alcohol. The first time you have it and you have a wonderful experience, you most likely are going to want to do it again. Well, if you get the car that you like or that you want and people think it's awesome and cool and you're the greatest person ever, that's going to give you a feeling that you haven't had before, and you're going to want to do it again. So then it becomes a constant rat race in a cyclical environment that you put yourself in. And then there's going to become a day where you feel like you can't keep up and you're not getting the response that you used to, and then it's going to make you sad or depressed again. And the main thing is because you didn't think about the core of you. Because if you did, you might, if you're one of these people, realize that things like that aren't important to you. Or if you are a person that does find those things important to you, at least you're aware of who you are inside. And if you're not getting that response like you used to when you got the first new car, that it's not going to be detrimental to your psyche, to your emotions, and bring you to a dark place. Because at least you're aware of who you are. You can appreciate you for you and not the responses that you're getting from other people. I've spent an episode on that, and probably even an episode and a half, and I could continue to go on about how unimportant things are that you think are important. But the biggest and the first thing you have to do is focus on you. Then, as we go on, I'll dive into those things a little bit deeper. But I want you... So, I want you to focus for the next week, like I did a couple weeks ago, on focusing on yourself. I want you to continue to do that. But what I also want you to do is to listen to something that you and I want you to listen to the environment around you that you experience on a daily basis, or quite commonly, for 15 seconds, or stare at something and appreciate something for 15 seconds. We're not talking about a lot of time. And if you have a hard time focusing on seeing or listening to something for 15 seconds, remember the 5-5-5 breathing rule. You will have that done in 15 seconds. Now, like I said, I typically recommend that you at least do that exercise three times to 5 times, or however long you want to, but at least to three. But I'm asking you to start simple. Let's just start simple. So, do the exercise, possibly at the same time that you're looking and or listening, or do both. If you're being the word that just left the tip of my tongue. Well, in any case, if you're gonna take the initiative to try to do both, that's great. But I implore you to at least do one of them. Now, I would ideally like for you to do this on a daily basis for the next week, but all I'll ask is at least do it 3 times. So at least do it 3 times over the next week. Remember, for the breathing, breathe all of the air out in your lungs. Breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and exhale for 5 seconds. There's your 15 seconds. And in that time, or if you decide to do these separately, just visually focus on one thing. And this time, let it not be something about you. Let it be a flower or a pen on your tack board, something. I would prefer it to be something nature-esque or something outside so that you can kind of experience the world around you. But that's up to you. All right. This episode was a little bit longer than I typically do, so thank you for listening. One thing I will mention, it is Tuesday, September 11th, and I hope we can all remember what happened many, many years ago. The other thing is that I live in a state that is going to be affected by the Hurricane Florence. So I might not be able to do this live on Friday because I don't know if we're going to lose power or for how long. So I might try to record an episode and put it up there on Friday. If not, please bear with me. I'll update the calendar on Spreaker in the event that I won't do this on Friday. So I just thought I'd let you know there's a possibility that I will not be doing this on Friday due to the hurricane coming. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you take what I've talked about and utilize it and at least try to do what I've suggested for the next week. Remember, you can always email me at lifeliveseries@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and please take care and appreciate yourself. Bye.